The sun hung low over Kingsbridge University, casting long shadows across the wide campus road as buses, taxis, and private cars took turns dropping off new students. Voices overlapped, parents giving last-minute advice, students calling out to friends, porters dragging boxes across the pavement. Daniel adjusted the strap of his backpack as he stepped out of his uncle's aging Corolla. Heat pressed against his skin immediately, thick and uncomfortable. "So this is it," his uncle said, shutting the car door. "University." Daniel nodded, staring up at the tall sign at the school gate, Kingsbridge University, Knowledge, Character, Service. The words character and service stood out to him. They felt familiar. Safe. Daniel had grown up in a quiet part of Akure, the second son of a secondary school teacher and a church secretary. He was the kind of boy neighbors trusted to run errands without worry. The kind elders pointed to during meetings. "Be like Daniel," they would say. "That boy has good home training. He had earned his admission on merit. No connections. No favors." His parents had prayed, fasted, and saved for this moment. As his uncle drove off, Daniel stood alone with his box and suitcase, suddenly aware of how small he felt. Kingsbridge was nothing like home. Daniel's hostel smelled like detergent, sweat, and instant noodles. Voices echoed from every direction, laughter, arguments, music playing too loudly from Bluetooth speakers. His room was already occupied. One boy lay on the top bunk scrolling through his phone, gold chain resting on his chest. Another sat on a chair polishing a pair of expensive sneakers. "You must be our last man," the one on the chair said, looking Daniel over slowly. "Yes," Daniel replied politely. "My name is Daniel." "Oh. Fresh boy," the other laughed. "Welcome." They introduced themselves, Femi and Sadiq. Final-year confidence sat on them easily. They spoke fast, joked freely, moved like people who knew the system. Daniel unpacked quietly, arranging his clothes neatly, placing his textbooks in a careful stack. Femi watched him for a moment and smirked. "Guy, you changed small." Daniel smiled, unsure what he meant. Orientation week overwhelmed Daniel. The campus moved like it had its own heartbeat, fast, impatient. Students gathered in clusters, already forming alliances. Some names carried weight. Some faces were instantly recognized. Daniel noticed certain boys never queued. Security greeted them casually. Their laughter carried authority. One afternoon, Daniel stood under a tree reviewing notes from the orientation lecture when he heard laughter approaching. "Not this kind boy go survive Kingsbridge," someone said jokingly. Daniel looked up. 5 boys stood nearby. At the center was one person everyone seemed to orbit around. Emeka. He wore a plain black shirt, wristwatch gleaming, confidence effortless. He looked older, important. Emeka met Daniel's eyes and smiled. "You're Daniel, right?" Daniel's heart skipped. "Yes." "You're serious?" "I like serious people." He nodded toward the others. "Come join us later." It wasn't a question. The hangout started casually. They met behind the faculty building, sat on low benches, talked about lecturers, courses, survival. "No one survives alone here," one of them said. They spoke about loyalty, discipline, respect. They mocked reckless students, praised quiet intelligence. Daniel listened more than he spoke. Every compliment sank deep. "You're not like these other boys," Emeka said one night. "You have sense." That sentence followed Daniel back to his hostel. Things changed subtly. People greeted him. His roommates stopped joking about him being too gentle. Doors opened easier. He still attended classes, still studied, but now he skipped sometimes, just to attend meetings. They'll understand, Emeka would say. This is how things work. Daniel told himself it was temporary. They called it a brotherhood, not a cult. People like to exaggerate, Emeka said when Daniel hesitated. This is just structure. Loyalty. The initiation night was quiet. Phones collected. Rules explained. Oaths taken. What happens here stays here. Daniel repeated the words, his voice barely above a whisper. Life became smoother. But Daniel's conscience grew louder. He started lying, to his parents, to himself. When his mother asked, "Are you happy?" he answered, "Yes," without conviction. One night, during student elections, Emeka pulled him aside. "We need you to stand with us." "Stand?" Daniel asked. "Just presence." Daniel knew what that meant. The night air around Kingsbridge felt heavier than usual. Daniel stood near the Student Union building, hands buried deep in his pockets. The election posters plastered on the walls fluttered slightly in the breeze, smiling faces, bold promises, empty slogans. Emeka leaned against a pillar beside him, scrolling through his phone like nothing serious was happening. "You're quiet," Emeka said without looking up. Daniel swallowed. "I'm just thinking." Emeka chuckled softly. Too much thinking can be dangerous on this campus. Daniel forced a weak smile. Across the road, a small group of students approached. One of them, a slim boy in glasses, was contesting for hostel representative. Daniel had seen him around before. Quiet. Harmless. As the boy noticed the group standing there, his step slowed. Daniel felt his chest tighten. No one said a word. No threats. No insults. Just silence. Just numbers. The boy hesitated, nodded stiffly, and crossed to the other side of the road. When they finally walked away, Emeka clapped Daniel lightly on the back. "You did well." Daniel didn't respond. That night, he lay on his bed staring at the ceiling fan as it creaked rhythmically above him. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the boy's face, confused, frightened, shrinking. Daniel hadn't spoken. But he had been loud enough. Calls from home became shorter. When his mother asked how school was going, Daniel gave safe answers. "Classes are fine. I'm managing. Don't worry." But worry lived in his chest constantly now. His grades slipped, not dramatically, but enough to scare him. He started missing early lectures after late-night meetings. His notebooks, once neat and organized, became cluttered with half-written notes and crossed-out plans. One Sunday afternoon, his mother called again. "Daniel," she said softly, "you don't sound like yourself." He almost told her everything. Almost. "I'm fine, Ma," he said instead. After the call ended, Daniel sat alone on the hostel steps for a long time, watching other students laugh and pass by. He had never felt so surrounded and so alone. Pressure rarely comes all at once. It arrives gradually, like water seeping into cracks. One evening, during a brotherhood meeting, Emeka addressed the group. "We need loyalty now more than ever," he said calmly. "Some people think they can challenge us." Daniel's stomach knotted. After the meeting, Emeka pulled him aside. "There's a lecturer," he said quietly. "He's stubborn. Won't cooperate." Daniel frowned. "Cooperate how?" Emeka's expression didn't change. "We just need information. Timetable. Weak points." Daniel shook his head immediately. "No. That's crossing a line." Emeka studied him for a long moment. You think standing there during elections wasn't crossing a line? He asked softly. Daniel felt exposed. Emeka sighed. No one is forcing you. But remember, you belong to us now. That night, Daniel didn't sleep at all. The warning came from an unexpected place. After a late lecture, Daniel was packing his bag when his course advisor, Dr. Adebayo, cleared his throat behind him. Daniel, he said, adjusting his glasses, walk with me. They strode slowly across the faculty lawn. The campus was quieter now, bathed in yellow light. You're a bright student, Dr. Adebayo said. But you're distracted. Daniel kept his eyes on the ground. Let me be honest, the lecturer continued. Your associations are beginning to show. Daniel stopped walking. I won't ask you questions you're not ready to answer, Dr. Adebayo said gently. But I will tell you this, no group is worth losing your future over. Daniel nodded silently. That night, he cried for the first time since arriving at Kingsbridge. The final test came disguised as a favor. Emeka sent him a message, come to the old cafeteria. Now. When Daniel arrived, the atmosphere was tense. There's a phone, Emeka said, pointing to a cracked device on the table. It belongs to a student who's been talking too much. Daniel's heart raced. What do you want me to do? Just keep it, Emeka replied. If anything happens, it traces back to you. Daniel stared at the phone. Something inside him snapped. No, he said quietly. The room fell silent. Emeka's smile faded. Think carefully. Daniel's hands trembled. I said no. For a moment, Daniel thought something terrible would happen. Instead, Emeka leaned back and laughed softly. So this is where you draw the line. He stood up. You can go. But the way he said it told Daniel everything. Leaving didn't come with applause. Daniel stopped attending meetings. Changed his routes around campus. Avoided familiar faces. Friends stopped greeting him. Whispers followed him down corridors. His roommates became distant. One evening, Femi shook his head and said, Guy, you mess up. Daniel didn't reply. His phone stopped buzzing. Protection disappeared. When trouble broke out on campus weeks later, Daniel watched from a distance, heart pounding, thankful and ashamed that he was no longer involved. There were consequences. He lost opportunities. Group projects excluded him. His name carried suspicion. It took months to rebuild trust with lecturers. His grades improved slowly, not spectacularly, but honestly. One weekend, he finally told his parents everything. His mother cried quietly. His father listened without interruption. When Daniel finished, his father nodded slowly. You came back before it was too late. Graduation came quietly. Daniel stood in line wearing his gown, surrounded by classmates. Some faces were familiar. Others avoided his eyes. When his name was called, the applause was polite, brief. But as he stepped off the stage, Daniel felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Key lessons from the story. Peer pressure often starts with small compromises. Daniel didn't begin by doing wrong, he began by just being present, which slowly pulled him deeper. Belonging should never cost you your conscience. The promise of protection and status is never worth losing your moral values. Silence can still cause harm. Even without acting directly, standing by during wrongdoing makes one complicit. True courage is knowing when to walk away. Saying no and leaving, even when it leads to isolation, is an act of real bravery. Doing the right thing may cost you, but it brings peace. Daniel lost friends and influence, but he gained peace and protected his future.
Hope you enjoyed that story. My name is Star, and creating African folktales is just one of the many things I love to do. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to subscribe, turn on your notification, and give this video a thumbs up. Your support means a lot to me. Please also drop a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I'm open to story suggestions. Also, if you'd like to create an African folktale like this, check the description for all the tools I used. Be sure to watch the next story showing on your screen right now, and I'll see you in the next video.